Hi, I'm Joe Bearjar. I've been here for 20 to 30 years, don't know exactly when. Before this church was built, helped put some of the roofs on here.
Hi, my name is Laura Bearjar, and I've been saved for over 35 years.
Where was I before coming to Christ? That would have been 40-some years ago, and I had just not been successful in college and moved on to the service to avoid some trouble, and was actually headed into some trouble there. Fortunately, I had a friend who was already saved, and through those difficult times, in spite of getting in trouble and getting hooked up with some less than favorable people, he was there, and when the time was right and things were really difficult, he started showing me a kindness and an understanding of the world that I wasn't aware of. And it was eventually him in a barracks one night that led me to Christ through the prayer of salvation.
Before coming to Christ, I was a newly married 19-year-old who had been praying for a husband for about 6 or 7 years. I had been baptized as an infant. I had been confirmed when I was a teenager, but I did not know Christ. However, I did pray, and I did go to church, and I did read the Bible. When praying for what God had for my future every night, I would pray for a man who would come into my life to just love me for who I was, and that I could love back. And so, being a very new wife and new into marriage, living 5 states away from family, I needed something else.
When did I realize I needed a Savior? It was a slow process. In the past, I'd always wondered about what was in the Bible, and I actually read much of it growing up under a different faith, but I didn't get much out of that, and it was trouble, unfortunately. And as things start to pile up on you, and for me, as they started to pile up, I realized I wasn't going to be able to get out of certain situations. And again, it was a friend of mine named Paul who forgave me, and it was his forgiveness that showed me something really different and confused me. And in that action, and instead of being angry, he offered me a different way. He just literally opened up about the Bible, about God and how he believed it, and he asked if that's something I needed. And I can say up to that point, I'd bounced around looking for something, but you often don't know what it is. And I realized I wanted that, and I still didn't fully understand what it was. But we said the prayer of salvation, and there was a difference. It was a weight that fell off. It's hard to describe other than to say this weight's relieved, a freedom comes into you, and a joy, and then from there it's something that you need to build on, and that's what I discovered. Having been saved a long time ago, the Lord gave me a fever for his word. In a year I read through the whole Bible. That was my dedication, and that was from the Lord. 100%, and it was a great blessing. And then things grew from there, and then I had the opportunity to meet my wife, and it just grew from there as well. And so realizing when you need a Savior may not be obvious, but when a call comes out, you got to grab it and let the rest come to you.
I realized I needed something else in my life. Growing up as a kid, life wasn't always easy. There were a lot of things that happened in my life. When I lost my dad at 13, I realized I needed something else in my life, that I was lost. I didn't have direction. Then I met my husband. Once I met him, he was already saved. So he would tell me things, we would talk about things, but I did not accept Jesus Christ until a door-to-door evangelist knocked on our door one day. And my husband said, "I think someone's here for you." Therefore, she and he came in, and we talked about it, and I decided to accept Jesus Christ that day.
The biggest changes happened early on. After getting a fever for the Word, much of my approach to life changed. It wasn't that life necessarily got easier. It was that God gave me a way of understanding life in a way that He's in control. And so even though the difficulties continued to come, I wasn't approaching them for like, how do I fix this? How do I get out of this? How do I avoid this? It was, God's got a way. I got to let it play out. I got to trust in God. I have to let it go through and endure it. In the end, I'll come through. Life is not without impact, and trials will still occur. But knowing that you could approach it with God there, and in the end, you're always going to pull through. Doesn't mean you won't feel bad, but you're going to pull through. That's been the biggest impact of my life and my salvation.
God impacted my life everywhere. There is not a place that God has not impacted my life. He gave me direction. He gave me purpose. He fulfilled all of my hopes and dreams with a husband, a family, now grandchildren. I never thought in a million years, whenever I was seeking Him when I was a teenager, that my life would ever lead to where it is today. I have amazing friends. I have a church family. I have recently looked into how my past has changed, and I look back now over 35 years, and I can see everything that God was moving behind everything that happened in my life, from the little things to the bigger things. He has much more to do in my life because I'm a bit imperfect these days, but I know that He is my direction. He is when I look to Him, I will find my answers.
I have accepted Jesus Christ as my Lord and Savior.
I have accepted Jesus Christ as my Lord and Savior.